The battlefield between Ukraine and Russia has witnessed countless missile and drone flights. But today, the reality on the front lines is changing with balloons. Kyiv has begun transporting one of the war's most powerful weapons, missiles, using balloons. The system is based on the integration of DART missiles designed to be launched from stratospheric balloons. This balloon missile technology offers a radical solution against Russia's massive electronic warfare superiority on the front lines. Because the Russian military, with its powerful signal jammers and GPS disruptors, could divert Ukraine's standard missiles and drones off course, electronic warfare systems would infiltrate the brains of the drones and pull them away from their targets. However, Ukrainian engineers chose a different path to break through this seemingly impenetrable digital wall. They have deployed a non-digital, silent, and unstoppable method onto the battlefield. DART is an asymmetric weapon that silently ascends into the stratosphere in the middle of the war and then dives lethally onto its target. The core idea behind the system is to combine the most advanced missiles with the simplest launch platform. The Ukrainian military is turning the stratosphere into a vast and secure launch pad for itself with this innovative step. These systems require neither aircraft runways nor massive launch ramps. In the depths of the forest, an experienced team can prepare a stratospheric balloon for launch in just 15 minutes. Modern air defense systems spend billions of dollars to track satellites in orbit and hypersonic aircraft. Yet these simple balloons, drifting slowly and silently in the freezing quiet of the stratosphere, slip through the radar detection filters. This near-invisibility capability gives the DART missile the critical time it needs to reach its target. The features of this system, born from the combination of DART missiles and balloons, prove just how effective it is. When examining its physical characteristics, the first striking detail is the system's incredibly compact design. Imagine on screen a three-dimensional model of this missile suspended at an altitude close to space. The missile's body length is masterfully designed at just 1.84 meters. This short and aerodynamic structure is one of the key elements that allows the system to maintain balance while hanging beneath the balloon. The empty weight of the DART is astonishingly only 13 kilograms. The warhead weight varies between 3.5 to 10 kilograms, depending on the mission type and target structure. This flexibility in warhead weight allows the missile to adapt rapidly to different mission profiles. A lighter warhead increases the missile's range and dive speed, while a heavier warhead maximizes destructive power. The type of warhead used relies on a strategy far different from conventional explosives. These warheads are produced using high-density graphite-based penetrating elements. The choice of graphite is by no means accidental. This material is specially designed to create soft kill effects in enemy infrastructure. So, what is the maximum altitude these balloons can lift the missiles to? We can speak of a safe altitude band between 12 and 18 kilometers. As an interesting detail, the developers have specifically noted that the balloons are not entirely domestically produced. The emphasis that the aerostats are a partnership project highlights Ukraine's deepening technological integration with its Western allies. The critical moment when the balloon releases the missile contains one of the system's most delicate engineering solutions. Specially designed servo actuators prevent the missile from swinging at the moment of launch. The moment of release from the balloon, that is, how the system operates, is one of the most remarkable phases. These actuators correct the missile's position in milliseconds during release, ensuring trajectory stability. In the first phase, the stratospheric balloon, silently and undetected by radars, carries the missile to the targeted high altitude. When the required altitude is reached, the missile separates from the balloon and begins freefall. In this initial phase of the descent, the sophisticated navigation system inside the DART activates. This system calculates the missile's orientation toward the target using data received from satellites and adjusts the control surfaces. But the real genius reveals itself when the missile descends to approximately 6 kilometers in altitude. At this exact point, the missile's navigation system is deliberately and completely automatically shut down. 6 kilometers is the boundary where the influence zone of Russian electronic warfare systems begins most intensely. Because signal reception is fully stopped, the missile turns into a closed box isolated from the outside world. The moment navigation is cut off, the powerful solid-fuel rocket motor in the dart's body ignites violently. With the motor's ignition, the missile exits freefall and transitions into a high-acceleration ballistic flight. Following a fixed trajectory, the missile dives rapidly toward its target on the previously calculated path. In the terminal phase, during the final approach to the target, all onboard communication and sensor systems in the missile are shut down. This shutdown process forms the very foundation and invincibility of the missile's electronic warfare resistance. Russia's GPS jammers, signal disruptors, and advanced EW systems broadcast massive interference waves into the air. However, the Dart missile has no antennas or open circuits to receive these waves, making it completely deaf and blind. You cannot disrupt a closed system. You cannot disturb an ear that is not listening with noise. Even if Russian EW operators create a massive interference cloud on their screens, the Dart passes through that cloud without feeling anything. Additionally, the system's low radar cross-section makes its detection almost impossible. This 13-kilogram target, diving vertically at incredible speed from high altitude, is a nightmare for air defense radars. Air defense batteries, whose reaction time drops to seconds, will be far too late to lock on once they detect the missile. Consider a typical Ukrainian long-range drone. These drones depend on GPS signals for hundreds of kilometers. When Russia's electronic warfare systems cut their signals, the devices veer off course, get lost, or crash into the ground. In contrast, the Dart completely eliminates its need for external signals in the final phase, precisely to overcome these problems. A deep analysis of cost asymmetry demonstrates with numbers why this doctrine is so devastating. Because the total estimated cost of a single Dart missile and its carrier balloon is only around $6,000. Yet stopping this $6,000 threat requires firing an S-400 interceptor missile that costs millions of dollars. This ratio represents an unsustainable hemorrhage for Russia in the context of war economy. For example, if Ukraine launches 50 Dart missiles in a single night, it spends only $300,000. Russia, on the other hand, would be forced to expend potentially tens of millions of dollars in interceptor missiles to stop those 50 missiles. Each interception delivers a heavy blow to Russia's long-term economic structure. If even a few of the missiles penetrate the defenses, the damage they create to energy infrastructure can mean millions of dollars in additional economic losses for Russia. This long-term economic pressure strategy is Ukraine's most powerful weapon in its war of attrition. When looking at the additional technical details of this weapon, the missile's motor type also maximizes its impact energy on the target. The solid-fuel rocket motor gives the missile the ability to reach supersonic speeds in seconds. Thus, it appears like lightning over the target and injects its soft-kill warhead into the heart of the objective. This design has created an entirely new threat vector by breaking the enemy's air defense geometry along the vertical axis. So, how did they acquire this balloon missile technology through a development process? Ukraine's evolution in balloon usage is the product of a meticulously crafted strategy that builds a vast ecosystem far beyond a single missile. This process is the result of a strategy refined from the fall of 2025 to the present. In the first phase, Ukraine sent only simple decoy balloons with radar reflectors into the sky. The sole purpose of these balloons was to create hundreds of false targets on Russian air defense system screens. When expensive air defense missiles were fired at these cheap balloons, Russia's arsenal began to melt. In the second phase, these silent platforms were transformed into reconnaissance and communications relay balloons. These balloons, capable of remaining stationary at high altitudes, provided beyond-horizon communications for ground units and drones. The third phase created a revolution in the war when the balloons were used directly as drone carriers. The most striking example of this was tests conducted with the Ukrainian-American jointly produced Hornet one-way attack drone. A balloon carried the Hornet drone 42 kilometers from the ground and released it from 8 kilometers altitude. This system allowed the drone to save its own battery solely for the final dive phase onto the target. Because the enormous energy required for takeoff and climb was transferred to the balloon, the drone's range effectively doubled. The fourth and most advanced phase came to life with the integration of the Dart missile into these balloons. Now balloons had become direct weapon launch platforms, not just decoys or transport vehicles. On the other hand, these systems do not operate alone. They create incredible synergy with the Spectre decoy drone developed by OM Defense Systems. Spectre is a ghost capable of generating powerful and adjustable radar signals with its artificial intelligence-supported hardware. This drone, introduced at the Eurosatory 2026 exhibition, presents itself on radar screens like a real fighter aircraft. Spectre and Dart are the most important actors in a perfect layered attack doctrine that complements each other. In the first phase of the layered attack doctrine, hundreds of decoy balloons and Spectre drones are directed toward the target. Russian air defense networks panic in the face of this massive signal storm and push their radars to maximum power. The systems lock up, air defense batteries lock onto false targets and miss the real threats. In the second layer, Dart missiles, taking advantage of this chaos, begin their silent descent from the stratosphere. Slipping through the blind spots of the radars, the Dart reaches energy infrastructure and carries out soft kills with its graphite warheads. With the collapse of critical infrastructure, the power lines to defense radars are cut, and the systems go blind. In the third layer, the real heavy blow comes from conventional long-range drones and cruise missiles entering the stage. Weakened, power-deprived, and ammunition-exhausted air defense networks become completely helpless against this main attack wave. The production scale advantage is another factor that makes the Dart system unique. The system's simple aerodynamic design and standard components make mass production extremely easy. Cheap composite materials and commercially available servo actuators accelerate the production lines. Ukraine's defense industry has managed to raise drone production to an industrial level throughout the war. The same massive production capacity can now be rapidly adapted for Dart missiles and carrier balloons. The strategic implications of the Dart system are creating an earthquake effect in air defense doctrines. Russia's air defense planners can no longer wait only for cruise missiles coming from the horizon line. They must also find a solution against these silent threats descending directly from above, from the stratosphere. This situation requires defense radars to continuously scan the sky along the vertical axis, overworking the systems. This new phase of the war has increased the military importance of the near-space concept more than ever before. That thin line between Earth's atmosphere and space has now become a front line where new generation weapons hide. It is no coincidence that major powers are also interested in this domain, and developments have been ongoing behind the scenes for a long time. The United States is testing high-altitude balloons capable of long-term surveillance with the Thunderhead program. The People's Republic of China views near space as a new battlefield and has established massive stratospheric balloon fleets. The Chinese spy balloon that entered American airspace in 2023 was the first global echo of this strategy. However, Ukraine is the first country to turn this domain, which major powers use only for intelligence, into a direct attack platform. Of course, the Dart system also has limitations that must be honestly evaluated and cannot be ignored. The system is still in the codification phase at the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense and is newly entering the inventory. The transition process from prototype to mass production may contain technical challenges, as in every military system. Furthermore, the system's long-term operational reliability in a real high-intensity combat environment has not yet been fully proven. The unpredictable nature of stratospheric winds is the biggest weakness of the balloon platform. The precise progression of a launched balloon along the intended route depends on upper atmosphere winds. Although the prevailing winds blow eastward and provide an advantage to Ukraine, nature is not always controllable. The limited warhead weight is another operational handicap of the Dart. A 10-kilogram warhead cannot destroy hardened command centers or underground bunkers. The system is optimized entirely for soft targets such as power lines or exposed radar arrays. The balloon platform itself can also be affected by bad weather conditions during launch. Despite all these limitations, the Dart is a strategic burden that keeps Russia constantly on alert. Russia's possible and existing responses to this threat have not been delayed. Fakal Design Bureau has developed the Yolka, an artificial intelligence-guided interceptor drone, to hunt these small threats in the air. This system is designed as a cheap alternative to autonomously track and destroy its target. Pervy Dirigible Company has announced barrier-type balloon net defense systems, returning directly to World War II tactics. Additionally, Russia is equipping its own drones with electronic warfare systems to try to blind Ukrainian radars. New jet-powered drones like the Shahed 238 prove that Russia is advancing its speed and deception tactics. Yet every countermeasure Russia develops steals enormous resources from its own budget and other fronts. Ukraine, by developing one weapon, forces the enemy to spend 10 times more money against that weapon. When looking at future plans, the Dart appears only as a starting point. The development team has openly stated that they are working on a ballistic missile variant based on the Dart platform. This ballistic variant, carried to higher altitudes with a larger balloon, can reach hypersonic speeds with the power of gravity. At the same time, plans for an air-to-air variant to be used against aerial targets are on the table. All this shows that the Dart has serious export potential in the international arms market. A cheap missile system proven on the battlefield against electronic warfare is invaluable for NATO countries. Especially in an era where drone wars are intensifying, global demand for such asymmetric solutions may explode. Ukraine's decision to restart arms exports is intended to bring these innovative systems to the world market. Interest from major players such as Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States in Ukrainian-produced drones and systems is rapidly increasing. The global paradigm shift has now begun irreversibly. The combination of cheap platforms and smart, signal-independent munitions is preparing to bury traditional massive defense systems in history. In this new era, the side that will win seems to be not the one with the largest missile, but the one that uses the sky most cleverly. Kyiv seems to have taken a significant step forward with this new technology to come closer to winning in this regard. Ukraine's combination of balloon technology with the Dart missile is a rare innovation leap in military history. An age-old launch method has been blended with one of the 21st century's deadliest and most invisible strike mechanisms. This system, with its immunity to electronic warfare, renders the enemy's billions of dollars worth of digital shields ineffective in a single move. However, the real power of the Dart missile lies not so much in its technical specifications, but in its operational philosophy. It was not designed as a miracle superweapon that would win the war by itself. On the contrary, the Dart is only one of the sharpest teeth in a vast and multi-layered attack ecosystem. It works in perfect symphony together with decoy balloons, Spectre drones, and long-range cruise missiles. It does not have to be a perfect weapon. It is enough for it to be a piece that wears down the enemy within the overall flow of the system. Bleeding the enemy economically, exhausting its radars, and collapsing its defense psychology are the real keys to victory. The effects of this innovative approach will not remain only within Ukraine's borders and can rewrite global military doctrines from scratch. The sky will no longer look the same as before, because the greatest threats are no longer massive jets screaming on radars, but ghost missiles silently raining down from the stratosphere. What do you think about this? We look forward to your comments. Thank you for watching.